Bienvenidos, welcome to this session. Si alguien no se había enterado, esta sesión se llama Foco sobre Hadi Moussally. We stress on Hadi Moussally. So Hadi is Franco-Lebanese, now Barcelonese artist. And he's gonna present his work, so we are going to watch. And there is also a very interesting point that he's going to make about the hybrid arts. In our case, it's interesting to explore the concept of hybridation. Because screen dance is, by definition, the name shows that it's a hybrid screen dance or video dance, etc. And there is always a debate, what's video dance, what's not video dance. Sometimes it's a useless and a sterile discussion, but sometimes discussing about what it is not, and what are the ingredients that we bring to the video dance and in parallel can be really something interesting to understand what we are doing. In our case, this is the meeting of video dance and video performance, so we are all inclusive. We take a lot of different subgenres, and we are interested in different things. So we are really excited to have Hadi Moussally. When we saw his works, we said, well, we have to have him. And when he was coming, we proposed him to make a special session on him, and he accepted. And I think we are going to have a very interesting session. So, ladies and gentlemen, Hadi Moussally.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Do you hear me? Is it good for you? I want to start at the beginning to thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm really honored to present my work here in Valencia. I'm going to start introducing myself so you can understand a little bit my vision. I was born in Lebanon. In the north of Lebanon, in a city called Tripoli. And I always wanted to be a math teacher. That's a bit different. I don't think I had the same... it changed a little bit since. And so I started my scientific studies. So I changed to do electronics. I said maybe it's different, so I'm gonna have to work in companies, not only in classes. And so I went to France. I started my studies, and I realized I cannot do this all my life. Connecting, it's not for me. So I changed everything, and I started my studies in filmmaking. So I did feature cinema, a master's degree in feature cinema, and a master's degree in documentary, which is very different from math and electronics. And so at the beginning, when I did my first master's degree in cinema, feature cinema, I learned a lot how to create a world, to do a scenario, to create a world that it doesn't exist, which I find interesting because you have a lot of possibilities to do. And then after, like I said, it's very interesting, but I'm also interested in the human nature and how to captivate the moments when you do a documentary. So I continued my studies in documentary, and I learned a lot how to see a person, how to, for example, it's something very basic in anthropology, if you're just filming someone doing the dishes. It's very basic, it's very instant. It could be not interesting, maybe, sometimes depends on the person, but it's interesting because if someone is very neat, someone is very just cleaning and throwing the dishes, someone is very maniac, someone is it's very interesting. You can analyze the person, analyze his life in just an act that he's doing, a simple act. So I started my studies in, so I continued my study in documentary, and I did my first documentary with my grandmother. It was it was very hard because I always had something for time passing by. The fact that time passes and you cannot do anything about it, you just have to live with it. You just have to say you're growing old, and it's good. It's good. You learn a lot, but at the same time, you feel you're missing a lot of stuff. And it's something it's really in all of my films, or most of them. So I said the best example to do this is to do it with my grandmother, because she was 85 at that time in 2014. She was very old. She couldn't move. She was just doing she do basic things in every day, sleeping, sitting in front of the TV if it's on, and eating, and that's it. And doing this every day, every hour, every day, every hour, and it was very heartbreaking because she forgot what day it is. She didn't know if it's 2010 or 2005. It's like every day is the same. She doesn't know if it's hot or cold. That's it. And to be in that age when I saw her, and to say like, if you're in that age and you have all your life in front of you, but you cannot even use it because physically you can't do anything because she was so tired, she couldn't do anything. So I said, I'm gonna start filming her daily basis. And while I was filming her, it was interesting because, of course, when you put a camera in front of her, she start directly to be like doing like as if she's an actress. So she start like doing her brushes hair, or not being natural. So I said it's interesting if I just put the camera next to her for a few days, so she's gonna forget about it. And so little by little, she started forgetting about the camera and being more natural. And I had an idea of showing her a picture of her. It was a special occasion because it was my mother's birthday, and she didn't remember anyone in that photo, not even herself, which is very sad to not remembering yourself. Of course, she didn't remember my granddad or my mother. And then after, I showed her another picture, a random one that she took in front of a window, and she remembered every single detail of this photo. Who took her, what she was wearing, the jewelries, everything. And I find it very interesting how the brain, it could be very selective in memories. It could be like you think an anniversary is gonna stay in your head or your life, but no, it's just an image on a window. So we're gonna see the movie. It's just a 3-minute movie. So, and we're gonna see it together. And yes.
تايتا تذكريها الصورة؟
هذه صورتي.
ها؟
يا الله تذكرني بأيام الصبا. طعم صوف. ليش بحب لبسه هدي طعم. يبقى وحتى العاد هوني وحتى الحلال. والله كانت حلوة يلا. يلا راحت علي. يلا خلنا شولو يا ريت الشباب يقعدوا يا
Thank you. It's funny to see the movie because she passed away before I showed the movie, and to see it after all these years. It's been 5 years I did the movie, so it's emotional. So
Just a small comment. This actually, looking at this, it's maybe a portrait or a documentary, but it's so much screen dance what you have done. Even the static body is a screen dance.
It's because, like, for example, in the images, like we can see on this one, I always love to do like when she's not like centered and on the left or right, to show the fact that here, for example, there's someone missing, and to feel the loneliness in the image. And yeah, when you get old, you just have to accept the fact that people are gonna not be in your life anymore. So it's always all about the images to show a thing that's sad, but at the same time take it as something very positive, to say, okay, maybe we are all gonna die one day, but at least let's enjoy what we're having today, and let's live it like as if it's the last day. So yeah, it's interesting to say about this dance. But yeah, so after the documentary, I started like in the fashion field. By accident, a friend of mine told me, "Can you do a video for a fashion designer for backstage?" So little by little, I started doing fashion, but I always held something in fashion particular because I love doing fashion, but I don't want to be labeled as a fashion filmmaker because I don't consider myself doing only fashion. I like to mix things in my work. So we're gonna do some math all together. I hope you don't like. I hope you like math. If you take a film and you add dance in it, what is it called? A dance film? Yeah? No? It's simple. That's the basic equation. But if you take the same film, you add fashion in it, what is it called? Is it a fashion film or a dance film? And if you add experimental in it, we have to admit we live in a society where we want to label everything we do. So even if you're sent to a festival, the festival is like this or that. It can be not both. So the idea of having few genre and mixing genre, this is the idea of hybrid or híbrido in Spanish. I learned it not long time ago. So the idea of hybrid films or anything, it's mixing at least two genre or more. And hybrid, it always existed. It existed in films, photos, paintings, sculptures. You can have a photo with the painting on it, it's hybrid. You can have like documentary and fiction, it's hybrid. This is the idea of hybrid. It wasn't labeled as hybrid. It's funny that we are labeling the non-labeled, but it existed a long time ago and it's still existing. I'm gonna take an example of Orson Welles. He did a movie called The Other Side of the Wind. Well, at least he wanted to do the movie. And you can see it on Netflix. I'm not doing sponsorship with Netflix or anything, but you can see it on Netflix, the movie and the making of the movie. And this movie is hybrid because there's fiction in it and there's documentary. Because the movie is really, in the movie, there's two movies. One movie is with the scenario, with the actors, it's a fiction, and at the same time, there's the backstage of this making of this movie. So this movie is mixing documentary and fiction, even though they are all role-playing, but it's two different things. So it's a film inside a film, and it was shot from the 70s till the mid-80s. So it took a long time to do it, at least to shoot it, because usually this kind of films, it's hard to find financial aids or producers to do it. And it's really created by accident, which means the film is written, but it could be changed if he's inspired by the actors, if he's inspired by the ideas or locations and everything. And it was released in 2 November 2018. So practically 50 years after the shooting of the movie. And of course, he passed away meanwhile. So the version of the movie, it's really the last thing that he was writing. So it's not his version, but at least the version that he wanted to do it. But I'm not going to talk about the hybrid history or anything. I'm just going to show you that it really existed a long time ago with like big directors or big artists. But I'm going to talk more about my first movie after the documentary. That's really hybrid. It's called The 12 Project. The 12 Project is 12 months, 12 films, 12 editorials, 12 fashion designers, 12 models, and 12 themes. There's a lot of 12 in it. But it's for me, 12 was more like an idea of a cycle of a yearly thing to do. And it's mixing photos and films. The idea is each month we're a group of makeup artists, fashion stylists, graphic designers, sound designers, and a lot of people included in it. We take a theme, which, for example, for the first one was March. The theme was women. And for me, for example, women is the birth of life. So it was, and at the same time, I wanted to do the birth of the project. So we do each month a theme with a fashion designer and a model or an actress or a dancer. And each month is independent, visually, technically, with the idea, but it's also interdependent because when you put one month after the other, it's going to have one film of 12 minutes. So now we're just going to see the photos that we did in the project. Yeah, and I usually also work a lot with alternative models, which means non-standard beauty, because I think the actors or models are really beautiful, but it's not the only beauty that we have. We are all beautiful differently, and we all have beauty that we can show it in a beautiful way. I'm just gonna say a little bit about her. She's an artist, she's an amazing one. You're gonna see her after, because I was inspired with this movie to do another one after with her. She was 82. She was amazing. She's joyful. I want to be her when her age. And yeah, so we're now gonna see the 12 Project, and we'll be back after.
extending, never-ending before us. Whitened waters and quickened skies. Expanding infinity stretching. Wide, distinct yet always side by side. Exciting conflict in salty strides. While brine-born words reach up in tides and tender. Extant questions high and true. Why do the waves take twilight's hues? Exhaling along a horizon strong, the whining echoes of a hollow song.
Instinct. Everything is by instinct. Instinct. Everything is by instinct. Everything is by instinct. Instinct. Everything is by instinct.
I don't know if you really noticed, like, for example, I'm going to take the example at the beginning when she was with the makeup, UV makeup. For me, it was like the metaphor of being in a womb, and she was like the baby, and she has the contraction, she starts moving. After there's a light, it means she's going to go out with cordon ombilical, how do you say cordon? You know, when she goes out, and there's the scream of the baby when he goes out or she goes out. And at the end, the last one, it was the same scream, because for me, the idea of scream of a baby, it comes from a sexual intercourse at the beginning, so an orgasm, to have the baby after. So I said, it was interesting to finish the idea of orgasm at the end, with the woman representing the ovule, and there's two sperms, and she chose one of the two, both, and there's an orgasm after. There's also, like, it's very subtle, the idea. I don't want to talk about things that this is the idea and that's it. I'm more interested that maybe you find something else in it, or you thought of something else, because I think the imagination of each of one is more interesting than just my vision. And and I'm gonna also talk about maybe the identity with the face on. Like this one, it's really it talks, like, for example, about the problem of how we want to change ourselves to look like other beauties. And for example, in Asia, when people started doing plastic surgeries to look more European, so they take off their eyes, their nose too, they make it more bigger to be more like the beauty standard of Europe, which is, I think it's very sad, because I think each country or each person can find a beauty differently. You don't need to be behind a beauty elsewhere and to see it elsewhere. So I always love to talk about ideas of how do I say, of with a meaning. Like here, it's not a commercial to sell fashion or to sell the clothes behind. The idea is to use fashion with a meaning, to use the fashion, the clothes to talk about the story, to use it as a first character or a second character.
So this film is, you label it as fashion somehow?
No. It's this one is, for me, is the definition of my hybrid film. It's fashion, it's experimental, it's poetry, it's dance, it's yeah.
There's some fashion. I mean, some shots were meant for a fashion movie or not?
No. It's we for me, we all wear clothes, so it's fashion. It's who said that if it's a fashion designer, it means it's fashion. Each one of us has his own definition of fashion. So I said, let's use the collection of fashion designers to tell a story, to use it. I'm gonna take the example, for example, of Liv with the eye and the mouth. He's a feather maker. He uses feather to make the clothes, which is find very interesting. It's a technique in French it's called plumasserie. It's a technique very interesting because it's all subtle. Sometimes you don't even see that it's feather, but when you look closely, it's really like feather one put after the other. And Liv is, I don't know if you understood it or not, but it's about Big Brother is watching you. How politics, how you are a human and you feel watched every time by someone or something you're doing. And even sometimes you make it by yourself because you put everything on Instagram or Facebook or use anything, so you're doing yourself. Anyway, so the clothes he was wearing, it's the work of the fashion designer, and he mixes feathers and neoprene. Neoprene, we say neoprene in Spanish? Neoprene? Which is interesting because it's the opposite. One is animal and one is synthetic. So it's which for me it's really the human being. Is like you have something very human and nature in it, and at the same time you have technology and you have something. So yeah, it's really I like to use clothes. You're gonna see after the fashion. There's a lot of fashion in my movies, but it's not like the main reason of my movies. So.
Could you talk quickly about the music and the sound design? Who did it, and is it first the music, then the editing, or the other way around?
We were a group of 8. We had makeup artists, fashion stylists, and everyone. And there's a sound designer. He was a friend of mine. The idea of the film, to tell you before, we really had the idea. We said, okay, we're not making a lot of films. We're making more commercial. Let's have fun all together. Since we are all artists, we can collaborate and do something interesting. I know a sound designer, I know a graphic designer, I know editor, DOP. So I said, let's do something together and have fun. So the sound designer, his name is Max Romain. He was with me in the master's degree of feature cinema, and he moved to Canada. And so we said, let's work together even in distance. So usually we shoot the film, and then after I send him the rushes, so he can see a little bit to get inspired. And I tell him really the idea I have in my head, but since for me it's a teamwork, so I'm like, okay, this is in my head, but if you have something else in mind, don't feel free to show it to me, because it could be interesting that maybe something I didn't see. And he did everything from the beginning till the end, and it's amazing work that he did. I think.
But did you edit the image on the music, or the music?
No, we edit the image, and then the music is added on it. It's always added on it. Maybe we can change it from time to time. Maybe he tells me like, maybe here we can take off 1 second because the music would be interesting to come faster, but usually we edit the film and then he adds the music on it. It's like original. And even the poem in with the man dancing. This theme is man. It was 6 months after the woman. It's an original poem wrote by R.J. Arkipov, which he's the one writing all the text of each month. And the poem is called XY because it's the theme is man. And the poem, if you want to see it after, not now, I'm not going to show it again. But the poem is like always with the pronunciation of X, and the second rhyme is Y. So extending, never ending, na na na, whining, na na na. It's X, Y, X, Y, X, Y, which is I find it interesting and really represent the poem, the film, and the theme of the month. Voilà. So. Since I showed you the lady in that I fell in love with her when we worked in the 12 project, she was so joyful, so full of life. She was really amazing, and so I told her I really want to shoot a documentary with you, but it's hybrid documentary, hybrid film. Because it was mixing fashion, experimental, and documentary at the same time. Fashion, because we collaborated with a fashion designer that really, it's more like a girl's clothes. Experimental, because the format of the film is vertical. It was in 2016, I said it could be interesting to do like a format of a story or an Instagram. Since we use a lot our phone to do a lot of things, why not look at the movie this way and not like turn always the camera? And a documentary, because I interviewed her and asked her a lot of different questions, like what's your favorite color, or what do you think of the politics in America? It's like really different questions. And I chose only her positive words, because for me, this is what she inspires me. Everything positive, and positive energy, beautiful things she's saying. So the film is called Bowl of Cherries, and it's the portrait of Bonnie Miller. So let's see it together.
Just don't look at the bad things in life. Just look at the good things. I find something good in everyone. child. His life is just a bowl of cherries. It's very important to do something creative. It's really so good. Be positive, joyful. It's the only way to be. And it's always a surprise. And create my own images. And it becomes a story. And I hope they would be. Sometimes it works, not always. I'm afraid to leave because I might miss something. It's really amazing. I haven't been everywhere. I'm excited for that. So I have a few things to do. Just look at the good things. It will come, it will happen. It comes true. I never want to see the end. I'm still here for many years.
So I hope I translated her energy in this movie. Yeah, so I want to continue to show also a part of my work that I really like to do is to, how do I say, it's more like I would describe myself as an activist against injustice and all kind of injustice, like it could be sexism, racism, homophobia, all kind of injustice that we can have daily or with anyone around me. And it's also, it could be also like politically or about animals. Like for example, here I collaborated with a jewelry designer that she does a 3D printed jewelry. Her name is Jean Rouch. You can see here we did photos also of the with the shoot. I usually I take photos and film at the same time. I shoot at the same time. And she did her collection with as a replica of animal skin, reptiles especially. And I find it interesting because she was doing something with plastic and to do animal skin. And I find it interesting to do like, okay, maybe we can find an alternative of like killing animals to make fashion, which is find it very sad that we do it till now. And it's very like normal. And so I told her, let's do a movie about that, with two models and actresses, sorry. One here representing the mammals and one representing the reptiles. Let me explain myself. So the idea of the movie is to do a hunt of animals, but not in a brutal way. You're not gonna see blood or anything like that. That's not the idea. I'm always subtle with my things. But the idea is to create a hunt for animals and being scared. And I'm not going to tell you the end, but we're using a format of film called cinématographe. Cinématographe is usually you see it on social media, like it's a still movie, it's a still image, and there's only part of it which is moving. Like usually you see it like maybe, I don't know, a river, everything is not moving, you just see the water like running down, or maybe like a hair just like moving like this. So I said it's interesting to use this social thing that we see it on social networks to do a movie about it. And it's called Aliud, which means in Latin alternative. We're gonna see it, it's just a 1-minute movie.
H7O7.
So as you can see, there's not blood or anything. I don't want to show that. Maybe in one movie, but not in this one. And yeah, also always the idea of like talking about subject that maybe can change the world. Maybe it's not gonna happen, but at least I'm gonna trying to do something. I hope it's working. And also to change the idea of how we see beauty. Today we live in a society where the standards of beauty are very like cataloged in the magazines, the beauty magazines and fashion magazines, which is beautiful, but it's not the only thing that maybe we can see it around us. So I worked with actress in the middle. Her name is Adina, and she has an organization of against the discrimination of albinos. And she told me, let's work together, do something creative to talk about her organization. So it was in 2016. I told her the idea of being albinos to be less discriminated is to have her in negative. So if she's white, you put her in negative, she's gonna be black. And if she's black, she's gonna be less discriminated. Not discriminated, less discriminated. But I told her, if we're changing yourself to please others, you're making others gonna win because you're doing this to please others, not yourself. And you have to accept yourself who you are, and you have to be proud of yourself and not change yourself to the others. So I told her, let's do you as an albinos, and with two other models they have vitiligo. I don't know if you know the skin condition. It's like the cow stains. Especially her, for example, she had it when she was young. She was born like that. He had it when he was 18, and we all can have it one day. We never know. And it was very sad to when I heard his story. When he had him at the beginning, he was always buying makeup to cover his face because he didn't want to show his face because he was so afraid of that. Which I can understand when you have from one day and you have a different face. Maybe you're going to be shocked. People's going to look at you. Maybe not all people are going to look at you in a bad way, but you're going to feel looked at. And so we work together, and we work also. That's why I was telling you about fashion. We use it like with a meaning. Here, for example, we collaborated with an artist. She does masks, a white mask, a little bit like the mask for nuclear things, Chernobyl or anything like that, and to show a little bit like as if they are freaks. Like this is how the people look at them. They look at them in a, maybe not all of them, but at least a lot of people look at them in a bad way. And here you can see in the photos, a part of the body is a negative. Here you can see it here, here, and here. I'm gonna come back at the beginning here. But maybe you don't notice it when you see it at the beginning, and that's the idea of like having the opposite of yourself in yourself and not being noticed. So when we did the photos in 2016, it took us 2 years to do a 1-minute edit. We're not low in editing. I'm gonna assure you, it's not being we're so slow. We're slow in editing. It's because it took us a lot of time to translate the idea of the photos in a movie, because we tried a lot of stuff with Olivier Pani. He's my associate, and we have H707. We took a lot of time to have the idea of how we're gonna do this in a movie. And also, since it's an artistic film, so it's not our priority. We have like commercials. We have to do it to send to clients. So we did the film. It was released in 2018. We're gonna see it. It's just a warning. It's a real warning. If you're epileptic, you can't see it. So I warned you before.
Well, I usually cannot stand epileptic
So
inducing.
don't
No,
look at
but I looked at yours and it's okay for me.
It's okay.
So
just in case, we don't want to take any risks.
If you die...
No, not today. No, please no.
Entonces, simplemente esto puede provocar un poco de epilepsia. Si tenéis problemas, cerrad los ojos.
H7O7. Positive.
So I hope you not gonna have any problems after with epilepsy, but crossing fingers. Also I worked with a choreographer. His name is Antonin Rioche. He did a dance piece called Oh Boy. He showed it to me and he told me like, do you want to do a film with it? So we started to do how we can adapt the dance piece, which is amazing when I saw it, how to adapt it to a movie. The dance piece is about the feeling of loneliness and feeling lonely. What's the difference of being lonely and feeling lonely? With him, it was very interesting because we had different ideas of loneliness. For me, for me, loneliness is something very melancholic, and for him, it's something very energetic. He needs to be lonely. He wants sometimes to be lonely, and I find it very interesting because we have the opposite ideas. And I said, okay, let's do how can we find a way that we can both be related. So we started the film with this format. I don't know if you see it. It's a small one, and it gets bigger bigger and bigger all along the movie. And I'm not gonna say the end. I'm gonna show you the movie, and then after I'm gonna talk about it. I think it's better to not know the ending of this movie.
H7O7.
When I was a child, I wanted to disappear. Just close my eyes and disappear. I was a magician, a cosmic dancer dancing his life just by closing my eyes. Sometimes I'd tell my mother I was alone at school. She'd say to me, "There's nothing wrong in being alone. To know how to be alone is a great skill." In a way, I've always been alone in life. Not lonely, not isolated, but alone. Well, we're all a bit alone, aren't we? Have you ever noticed how most people are alone? How some spend their lives being alone, feeling alone. But why? Is this just a losing game? All of us, since we are born, with no possible recourse. I like being alone. I don't like to pretend, you know, I must be someone and do something, but what? Loneliness, for some of you, the word may not be very familiar, but the feeling, though you know it quite well, is an area of invisibility, a creek, a beach at nightfall, a fire that goes out. Loneliness comes back when we least expect it, when we close the door, when we're in the warm. But the shared loneliness is a ménage à trois. Loneliness is real only when it's shared. You start feeling lonely when you realize you're being watched. When the other stands between you and yourself, when the other gives you his loneliness, his shared loneliness, shared between him and himself. It only takes one look, two eyes, two other eyes for me to feel like I'm not alone. Not alone anymore. But it only takes two eyes, these other two eyes, for me to feel lonely, isolated. It's a double movement, and it's the same movement. You thought you were a whirling dervish, and you end up waltzing as a couple. There's a huge difference between loneliness, feeling lonely, knowing you're lonely without anyone, and solitude as a fact. This feeling is you and I. Solitude is me, myself, and I. There's always two of us when we're alone. I feel lonely because you want me to. Loneliness is a bit of a cruel game.
So as you can see, the last still of the movie is, we see the beginning as if it's a cycle. The idea of getting bigger and bigger and slowly to be back like the same position at the beginning, the fact that it reminds us that even if we think we're getting free, we think we're getting like in our own world because we want to be lonely, it reminds us that we are lonely. And I give an example here, like for example of fashion, the idea of it's like it's secondary here. It's not important as the other things. Here, for example, the jacket is like a skin. It's like a new skin, as if it's like he's having a new skin, like an animal. And yes, you want to talk about this or no? I'm gonna show the last one. Just before, no, just I'm gonna talk about the last film I'm doing that I finished 2 weeks ago. This film is really special to my heart because I finished it recently and it was complicated to do it, but I'm glad that we managed to finish it. The name of the movie is Ophelia. It's inspired by the pre-Raphaelism Brotherhood that I find. I'm sure you know about the paintings and the movement. It was at the moment. Maybe today we can see a little bit classic, even though it's not classic, but a little bit classic. But at that time, it was a very anti-Victorian movement, which is especially the painters, even though they were poets and others, wanted to draw something more simple, with not like the perfect hair or like the very strict poses, but more like where the nature is very, very important. And you can see the other one also, another painting. On the left and on the first one, it's the stills of the film. But I just want to show you, especially this one, because why it's called Ophelia. The painting by Ophelia, the very well-known painting that we can also see it in the film of Lars von Trier, Melancholia, and the scene where she's in the water, Kristen Dunst. This painting is amazing because, especially because it's very beautiful, but also about the story behind it. John Everett was drawing the model in a bathtub. And at that time, of course, there wasn't warm water. You have to heat it yourself with candles. And so he put the candles and she was inside and he started drawing it. So he was drawing the death of Ophelia. And he was so concentrated that he forgot to to put the candles back. And she was afraid maybe of moving, that she was nearly gonna die of pneumonia because it was so cold, the water was so cold, and he was so concentrated. And so it's ironic to that this painting, the story behind it, that he was drawing the death of Ophelia and he nearly killed the model, which is I find it very interesting. So in the movie that we're gonna see, it's gonna start with the bathtub. This is the last movie that I did. How do I gonna say? It's gonna be premiered here, so I hope you're gonna like it. After this, you can ask me questions, or you can ask me also questions, and yeah, let's see it together.
H7O7.
So really, the music was created
Also,
and
yes.
recorded for
Exactly.
this.
All the music for practically all the films are created for original music for. Especially this one, I really wanted to have the idea of the pre-Raphaelism, which means to be, in French we say anticonformiste, which is like anti-conformiste.
Yeah, anticonformista.
And I didn't want to like recreate exactly the paintings, because the idea is not copying the paintings, but to have the idea of is the pre-Raphaelism. So like, for example, we took the music, the death of Ophelia, which is for Shakespeare in the Shakespeare. And instead of the piano, we said, let's put like electronic music, which is like very awkward to hear opera and electronic. For the image, we said, since usually it's always like this images, let's cut the image 3 times. So yeah, it's really to change, to show things differently, to be anticonformiste, and also of in the movie, and the image and the sound. Voilà. If you have any questions or.
So lo llevamos al centro. Let's go to the next to the center.
Okay, any questions here?
Marhaban. Thank you for coming here and show your films. You are from Lebanon, right? And my question is, if do you think there's something in your art that comes from your culture background in Lebanon?
I don't know if it works. Yeah. I don't know if it comes directly from Lebanon, because artistically Lebanon now is getting improved very, very well. There's a lot of beautiful talents, but at the time when I left Lebanon in 2005, there wasn't a lot of things, especially in the north. But maybe the idea of being I grew up in a society where image is very important, where you have to be this and you can't be like that. It's known, Lebanon is the first country for percentage of plastic surgeries. So the idea of image, of being like, maybe the idea of like showing beauty differently, maybe it comes from Lebanon. Maybe the idea of being having a lot of injustice in Lebanon. It's the Lebanon is a country of contradiction. You have freedom, at the same time you have censorship, you have the openness and the closed-minded. So it's like maybe also this one, and maybe it could be translated in my movies. I don't know, unconsciously. I don't know, but it's interesting.
You live in France, right?
I live in France. I used to live in France. Now I moved to Barcelona, but I didn't have the time to be in my apartment in Barcelona since. But very soon, next week.
I guess you are more a world artist, no?
Yeah, it's beautiful to be in a world where you don't have barriers. It's sad to see today now everything is constructing barriers everywhere and being afraid of others. I don't consider myself. I consider myself Lebanese and French, because I grew up in Lebanon. I learned a lot from Lebanon, and when I was in France, I learned a lot, and it's basically my identity now. But I always love to discover new countries, new cultures, and to get inspired by, because France and Lebanon, it's not the world. There's a lot of things happening elsewhere. We have to see it, and it's very interesting. Thank you for your question.
Shukran.
Any questions?
For once, the lack of questions is not a lack of interest. Your presentation was so brilliant, and I think we have really traveled with you all along. So
maybe I talked a lot. That's why it's.
So, no questions at all. I really am impressed, and I don't know exactly what a fashion film is, but I am so impressed about this way of making images that are, I don't know, brilliant, that are so aesthetically rewarding, and that may look like, you know, the fashion thing, which is the image for the image, and if you put things, it's just for it to look good. But at the same time, all your films have such a depth. I think there is a lot of deep feelings, and oh boy, it's a bit different maybe from the rest. The first time I saw it, I liked it very much, but now I was almost crying, but I am a boy, I don't cry.
You can, don't worry.
It's really such a deep movie, but even like 12
project.
Yeah, it's very deep. I think it talks also about dark things. It's not the shiny the shiny elements, and it moves everything within you.
That's good. I'm happy. No, it's the idea of the images of being used. Especially in I'm gonna just be back about the images. When I did the documentary master, my teachers were always telling me, don't use good cameras to film the documentary. I was like, I don't understand why. Like, no, the subject must be more important than the image. I said, okay, it's interesting, but it's funny because you're teaching us to be like what you are, not like what what I like to do. If I like to have a beautiful image, it's especially, I think it's very maybe French. So it's école of. It's they form us to be in the école of someone, but not maybe develop our talents or maybe our hidden talents. And so I remember you didn't see the film school that I did, but I said I want to do a beautiful image. Then they were like, "No, don't do it. It's not possible." And at the end, I said, "I'm gonna do it myself." And thank God I did it, and I got good grades. But what I find sad is like they always have to be. For me, I don't think my images are beautiful or not beautiful. I think it's just my way, my vision of the images I really want to translate, because there's a lot of beautiful images in other movies, and maybe they less important. But it's the image for me is very important because it's the first thing that you see, and I use it usually with my films or even on my Instagram when I use myself as a subject to talk about censorship, to talk about problems in the world, or in a funny way always, but it's just to make fun of what's happening today. And yeah.
Yeah, so aesthetic is not the enemy of deepness of feeling.
Exactly.
Definitely.
It could be. I can understand that. It's yes, of course. Maybe sometimes if it's too aesthetic, you're gonna forget the subject. But for me, for example, I love to see the movies few times, because you can have few readings, and which is interesting. Sometimes you see it for the second time, and you see things that you didn't see the first time. And so you take your time to see a thing, not just like fast and quickly and look at a movie and just finish it. And yeah.
I would like to say thank you for being here, Hadi.
Thank you for inviting me.
And when we were preparing the meeting, we saw your films, and it was quite an explosion of wow. We were really nervous and exciting to have you here.
Thank you.
And after a while, once I just saw all the films together, yes, I have still some strange engagement to your first film with your grandmama, and watching all the films together, I just I want to know what is your opinion about starting with something so, you know, so powerful, so deep, so familiar towards, the last film, Ophelia. How did you feel this path on your career? This is one question. And second thing that I would like to hear from you is about the women, the women in films, in your films, because I feel that you have something, you focused on women. I don't know why. I would like to know more about it.
I'm gonna just answer the second question before, because it's funny because the only film which is not like I had the idea as Oh Boy, with it's based on a dance piece, which is you can see a man in it, and practically all the others are with women. I was always obsessed with women, but not like in a sexual way or anything. It's just like I think there's something in the woman that you can see it, like it's all about like the sensitivity, or maybe the birth of life, the idea of having something like. That's why, like, for example, I hate sexism, because who said like it's something it was really I'm really engaged to, and I'm always like I always imagine myself as a woman, like my alter ego is for me is a woman that you can see visually they look the same apparently, the woman inside, and I'm always like when I start writing or have the idea, it always comes up with a woman. It's like I have to make a lot of effort to do with a man. I don't know why. Maybe because I was born with a lot of women around me. Maybe it's, but it's true. It's like I always like, and it's question like I was questioning myself why it's always women in my movies. Why I'm always inspired by this, and why usually my movies are with one person in it. There's not like a few persons interacting together. It's always one person about like one life of a person and like one idea. And to answer the first question is about
where you go. I mean,
the evolution.
your path.
Yeah, evolution would be
my film school. I did it with my sister. When I finished 2 years after, I did it with my grandmother. Since she passed away, it was hard for me to redo things with my family. I don't know why. Maybe it was my how to say time to take a lot of time to accept it, and so I redid a project that it's in post-production now with my mother, which is also a hybrid because it's documentary and fiction. And now it's like in post-production, and I think it's. Usually my films are really inspired by the people around me, and since it was my sister, my mother, and my grandmother, which is around me, so it's the first thing that I can come out with it when I think of it. And maybe after my film with my mother, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe with someone else, maybe the neighbor, or to enlarge the people around me.
Yeah. Do you feel that there is a different Hadi now than the Hadi that was?
Yes, especially when I see the films now. When I see the evolution, I see a lot of mistakes. Like when I see the first film, I'm like, how did I do this? I'm not gonna say which mistakes, but I see an evolution. It's funny when I see my own work. Usually, I don't like to see it again. That's why, like, I was re-seeing it with you. I think it's there's an evolution, especially with Ophelia. I think it's turning a little bit more like really mixing dance, poetry, inspiration of art, fashion.
And I would like also, if briefly, I mean, you said you work in a team. You do commercial work usually. I mean, you live from commercial work.
Yes, I have my production company that I do the commercial, corporate, event, everything. Yeah.
And you do these art films like on the side, or
depends. Like
And I would like to know also what exactly is your role or your area in the films that you make? Well, the music it's delegated to the musician, so that. But for instance, there is a director of photography, but who conceives the image? Who conceives kind of the concept? But also, I mean, what role do you play, and how do you interact with the others?
It really depends. Usually at the beginning, like for example with the 12 project, it was the idea, like I said, we have free time, we didn't have a lot of jobs. So let's say, let's do something together to collaborate and do something together. Then after, when I started having a lot of jobs, it was more like people telling me this could be interesting to do, or like, for example, it was a collaboration with Adina for her organization. With the jewelry designer, with 3D printed jewelry, she contacted me and she was like, okay, but I don't want to do something commercial with you. I'm more into like something more artistic. The last one, Ophelia, it was more like with a brand called Yumi Katsura, that she wanted to change her. She's a brand of, I don't know if you know Yumi Katsura. She's a Japanese fashion designer, and she does usually wedding dresses, which is, you didn't see it in the movie. I said it's more interesting now because she wanted to change her image. I said, if you want, she does kimonos. I said, let's do this. And when I saw the kimonos, it reminds me of Frère Raphaëlis, and it started like that. And I usually I have my production company based in Paris, especially with Olivier Pani, he's my associate. I do the film and the script, and he does the image and the post-production, which is, I think it's a lot of work of post-production, especially like in Aliud. But it's for me, like we do, both of us, like the pre-production, production, and post-production. So it's like really when I have the idea, so I develop it. I see with him what's possible, maybe in the budget or not, or if it's not in the budget, how can we do it so it can be in the budget? And then after we process like that, and it always changes till the end. Really, like literally, sometimes the idea changes. Like in the end of the post-production, we change everything. We say it's not working, and we.
But yet you shoot the film thinking in the post-production, I believe.
Yeah, usually I like, for example, Ophelia, I don't know if you remember the shot where she's in the middle, she's sleeping, and she has her eyes on the side. And for example, this one, at the beginning, I thought of it, her head in the middle, and the sides are at the same, like as if it's her head is open. Wait, I'm gonna just show it like this. Her head is in the middle like this, and her head is like, it's recreated next to it, normally. And as if she has a hat inside the hat, and the hat outside open her eyes, like this.
Microphone.
Sorry. But when we tried it in the post-production, we said it's not working visually. It has something wrong with it. So we tried it the opposite, and we changed it. Like, for example, this one. We changed, for Ophelia too, like I'm going to also give the example. We did it at the beginning. You see the trees are not the real colors of the trees. Like, for example, oh boy, it's not the real color of it's not the real one. It was muddy. It was in 23rd of December. We shot it. It was freezing. It was like rainy. It was, and we did all the post-production to change it to show more like paradise and heavenly way. Because if you see it at the beginning, you're like, this is heaven. I don't want to go to heaven in that case. So it's yeah. We try to use also the post-production to create things we can't do it when we shoot it, and yeah, it's always inspiring to change things and to experiment. That's why I call it experimental. It's all about like you experiment things and you change it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it's not. That's why, for example, also Positive, it took 2 years. We're not slow in editing. It was just we tried things, it's not working. We retried things, it's not working, and thankfully, it took us 2 years, of course, but at the end, when we did it and it was selected in the festival, it won the best editing. So it was worth it to wait these 2 years to do the editing. But it's always, I think we should always experiment new things, and we'll see after if it works. If not, we shouldn't do that. We should change.
Yeah, thank you, first of all, for putting so many different mediums in one medium and making it very interesting. I would be interested to hear your opinion about using medium film, in medium film, as an independent medium.
As a what, sorry?
Using medium film as an independent medium.
Yeah.
And then in this medium, you're using elements or even other different mediums, like a fashion, like a dance, photography.
Yeah.
So, and since you have a quite a lot experience in mixing all together, I would like to hear your opinion about what all these different mediums, what they contributing to the film as a medium itself and vice versa. Because in this context of the video dance and video performance, what does video itself, then how does it contribute to these different mediums, and also in this case also to the dance, since we are in this context of it. Yeah, but as I said, in this, what does a film contribute to the other one as an independent medium, so not as a part of the video?
In general, or in my movie?
In your movie in general, I would be interested. And as I said, but as a film, as independent medium, not as a part or as a video projection and part of the dance piece or the fashion show or something. So it's more, as I said, Thank you.
Interesting question. It's because, especially, I just want to come back on thing because of mixing artistic or fashion or experimental. When I started doing my films at the beginning, it was too complicated because it was, as I said, it was always about labeling things you do. It changed. Okay. It's labeling things. For example, for the artistic field at the beginning, I was considered too fashion. And for the fashion field, I was considered too artistic. So you're like in the middle of the two fields, and you're like, I want to do this and do that, but you can't be accepted as artistic because you're too fashion, and you can't be accepted as too fashion because you're too artistic. So it was a little bit complicated to define what I'm doing, and even I'm gonna tell the truth, I started like saying like, okay, I'm gonna do things only commercial, like fashion, and just think about like sell the clothes and everything. And I said, it's not, I did it, but it's not what I like to do. I do it only like, for example, if it's, how do I say, a brand contact me to do a commercial, and that's it. And I find it interesting what you're saying about the medium, because today, like for example, what is a fashion film? How do we define it? There's a lot of movies, very well-known movie with Hitchcock, or it's also fashion film because fashion was very important. For example, Hitchcock, with the colors of the dresses, it was all about like really the mood of the woman. It existed a long time ago, but fashion film, really the term existed with Nick Knight. Nick Knight, I don't know if you know Nick Knight. He's a very well-known photographer and filmmaker. And he has a production company called Show Studio. And he really put the term fashion film, which for him, the definition of fashion film is fashion in movement. When the fashion designer draws the dress or the outfit, he or she draws it in 2D. But he wants, or she wants to see it like how, like, if the model is sitting with it, if she's moving, how the outfit is going to move with it. So this is for him is fashion film. But to mix it, like for example, that's why I'm talking about hybrid. It's mixing all kind of genre to say like this is experimental, but this is also fashion, but this is also dance. Like for example, Ophelia, is it considered a dance film, a fashion film? It's a mix of both. You can see a little part of it where she's dancing, so it's a dance film, but at the same time there's a fashion designer, so it's a fashion film. At the same time, the experimental, because you're changing all the formats of the so it's all about mixing this and using all the elements to tell a story. So to use this medium to tell a story, to be an activist in a kind of way. So yeah. So I don't know if I answered the question though. It's I'm thinking.
How what the all medium contribute to the medium film itself, and what do you think what the medium film contribute or video contributes to the other mediums?
I'm trying to understand the question.
And because I was just talking with Jan Vassala, yeah, just short after, because we had a presentation in the first block, because he considered my videos as a dance videos, and I don't consider them as a dance videos at all.
What do you consider them as?
Like, I'm an artist, so I'm just for
Video.
the artist point of view, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just interesting because he said, okay, but what it's then the dance video? So what does it video itself also contribute to the medium dance itself? So I would be interested to hear your opinion about this. Just what does the medium film on how video contribute to the other mediums?
It's a very interesting question, but
Yeah, it's just like a
but
because we were both thinking, and because we didn't have so much time to speak about it, but since you are mixing so many mediums now, so it's very interesting to, as I said, from your experience, because you have it quite a lot, to hear your opinion. Okay. Sorry, it's so
no,
hard
don't worry.
question.
No, I'm trying to think about the, in general, it's a complicated question. Yeah, it's, No, it's, I'm trying to think about the medium and, because it's very interesting what you were saying about like how you define your work and how can other define your work, which this I find interesting about like how people label your work and how to use it as a medium to say like this is dance film, which is very interesting. But I'm trying to say as a medium how it could be.
Does it show a different dimension or a different maybe look at let's say in this, because we are context of the video dance, so let's maybe put it on this, like does the video then maybe for you shows also the different way of looking on the dance itself and just make it one additional way to express what the dance want to express?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. I think
kind of,
it adds because you can see it in a different way, because you can see it like especially like for example if you add like experimental, you can see the dance in a different way, for example, or if you add like as you said before about like my grandmother about this is a performance, which I find very interesting because it's you think that it's not a dance film, and for me it's not. I don't want to say it as a dance film. But it's a performance film, and it gives more credibility to the film as a medium, to show it as another perception of a performance. But I don't know if I answered you.
Sure. I was asking for opinions, so it was sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there more questions?
Si hay preguntas en español, las podemos traducir y además tiene que aprender un poco de español o de catalán, y ya en Valencia también.
No, not yet Catalan.
Hello.
Hello.
I just wanted to say two things. One was in your piece 12, Project 12, yeah. I really appreciated how the sound, Blas mentioned the soundscape, but how the sound, it could have easily become 12 different vignettes that didn't feel connected. And I noticed a few very beautiful connections, such as at the end of the Ave Maria, that I think it was a scream came after, or some sound, and it was in the same tonality.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
One. And the apple too, you can see the apple in a few. Yeah.
And certain other things of just small connections from one to the other, which really made it seamless, I felt. The other thing I wanted to say was, what I'm struck by very much by your work is, and I really think it's emblematic that we saw the grandmother film first, because it feels to me like you have such an appreciation of beauty, and as you said, non-standard beauty, that there's an interrogation of image and beauty in all of your films, but there's something really deep about the way you look at human beings, beautiful humans in all kinds of, in all manifestations. And I find that really wonderful in this, in our current time where there's such a distortion of ideas of beauty and so on.
Exactly.
So I just want to say how much I appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
Thank you so much. And especially beauty is something since I work in the fashion field, I find it very sad to see this only beauty, which is, if you think of it, it's the standard models that we see in the films, the fashion films or the commercials. They are very slim, but it's the perfect mensuration to show the outfit in the best way. For example, if you're not tall, if you're like short, if you put a long dress, it's not going to look good at you. You have to be tall to have the long dress. So it's the perfect mensuration. But we live in a society where there's different beauties, and different beauties depends on the countries, depends on, like, for example, there's a lot of people that love women with curves. A lot of people maybe love people the color of skin. So it's like, it's very sad to see that it's always the same kind of beauty that we see it everywhere, but there's beauty everywhere that we can show it differently. And that's why I really want to show this, even though I work also with standard models, but I also love to work with this kind of beauty. And also something I heard a lot, for example, when maybe we see a standard model in a magazine and we see people like yelling, this is not beauty, this is anorexia, we love curves, blah, 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 and everything. Okay, you love curves is very good, but you're judging the people on if she's anorexic and you're saying that she's not beautiful, you're doing the same thing that you are having. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It's because, like, I heard a lot, especially like on social media, people saying that this is not beauty. This doesn't represent us. Maybe it's true, but it's another kind of beauty, the standard beauty that we see, and I see a lot of hate. Like, for example, if someone has curves, we're not gonna say you're fat or something like that. But if someone is very slim or skinny or anorexic, you're gonna always be saying things like saying, you're not eating, you're doing, it's like, it's a lot of pressure that we have from all kind of people, and we have like a lot of judgments that we just need to stop that. Just be yourself. As long as you're happy with yourself, just continue, and you're beautiful the way you are. You don't need to change to please other people. Just be happy with yourself. It takes a lot of time, maybe. It took me a lot of time, but yeah, it's. Thank you for your comment.
Questions? I have a question, actually, and for me, it's directly it's a real question. For instance, in the pieces I make, I often, not always, but I often use text, like a poetic text or some other text, and we are very thankful for you to translate and subtitle all the texts into Spanish. But I think, and Hitchcock said that he didn't want his films to be subtitled. He wanted them to be translated, but he didn't want any subtitles to destroy the image. In this case, for instance, Oh Boy was subtitled. Do you think, do you prefer for the people to really understand the text, or rather you would like them to look at the image and if they don't understand, well, it's not the meaning? I'm saying that because I don't like to subtitle. Well, I subtitle because you have to, but it destroys. But here in this case, it moved me more because even if I understand English, Spanish or French, in my case, both Spanish and French, go directly to my emotions, whereas English it's a language that doesn't go directly to my emotion. So my question is, subtitle, no subtitle, what do you think about it?
A very interesting question. It really depends on the movie. For example, Oh Boy, the original one, there's even the English version, there's the English subtitles, because the text for us was very important for people to see it, and because sometimes people don't hear it, just need to see it.
And you didn't integrate it in an artistic way, like the text, the written text.
Yeah.
You did?
No. It was just a subtitle, because we want the people to see it, but not like to get the attention, like total attention, just as a subtitle. But for example, Bowl of Cherries. I don't know if a lot of people, I noticed, like the last conference that I did, people didn't understand Bowl of Cherries in Spanish, because they don't know the expression "life is a bowl of cherries." So people like, okay, well, why are you talking about cherries in the movie? Like, we didn't understand the idea of cherries. And I said, like, it's an expression in English saying, like, life is a bowl of cherries, like, you enjoy life and you just eat it like this. But that's why, like, here it's not good, the subtitles, because people not gonna understand, if they're not native American, or at least they speak English well, they're not gonna understand it. And you're not gonna have the understanding of the movie. So for poems too, poems like, for example, you're gonna hear the poem like in French or English. If you're gonna have the subtitles, it's not gonna be the same thing. It's gonna be a different thing. Maybe it's not even rhyming. You know, it's like for XY, for example, and the subtitles, it doesn't like you didn't hear, like, for example, the X and the Y in it. So it's not the same thing. But people need also, for example, I need that. I need sometimes to hear it, to see the words, to understand really the meaning, even though I hear it, but I need to see it too. So
your answer is yes, subtitles. It's
for both. It depends.
It's important to understand the text, to be moved.
If I don't know, if you don't speak English and you see Bowl of Cherries, maybe you're not gonna understand anything. You're just gonna see her talking, and you need subtitles sometimes. But for me, it's a different thing. It's like just to help you. Sometimes, and sometimes also it's very important, like Oh Boy, just to see it, even in English, to see it again. The words are, I'm very visual. I need images in my head to see it. You can speak to me, but if I don't see the images, how it's written, for me, I'm not gonna. I'm learning Spanish, that's why I need to.
So, and maybe in this case, is the true English speakers who can be somehow have less of an experience. No, you know when.
Yeah, of course, but you're gonna restrict it to only an English audience, which is very sad. And I really want to share it with everyone. Yes, and that's why, usually in my films, there's not a lot of dialogue. It's very silent, or very like with music, because I want it to be universal. I don't want it to be like people not gonna identify, or but sometimes I have to, because, like, for example, Bowl of Cherries, I really wanted to tell her she's saying these words. So
and no French. Well, the first movie with your grandmother was in Arabic.
Yes.
Beautiful, very beautiful Arabic in Lebanon. So
it's with the Tripolitan accent. It's very specific.
Tripolitan is the best.
I don't know if there's Lebanese, but.
But you use English text, maybe also because it's kind of the international language. But I mean, you haven't done works using either French or other
there's
languages.
One also. It wasn't showed here. It's called L'un et l'autre. The one and the other. It was in French poetry, and it's subtitled in English. And it's not the same thing when you hear the subtitles. You can understand the idea, but it would never be as if you understood it in French or in English for Bowl of Cherries, or it's. That's very sad about the language. You cannot do anything about it. If you don't know the language perfectly, you're not going to understand it perfectly. So we're going to do a conference about language now.
So we need the Holy Spirit and to speak in tongues. So, but not yet.
After.
cerramos. So thank you very much.
Thank
you
you.
so much. A question?
At the beginning, there wasn't a lot of questions. Now
No.
there are.
Hello. So I'm just curious. So there are many characteristics people appeared, and in the 12 themes, and there was identity, and in the identity you picked up Asian. Why? So for me, for my eyes, other people looked more characteristics. So, but you picked up Asian.
Because I was saying before, it's I was talking about the identity and how do you define yourself. Is it yourself you do it yourself, or is it the society that does it for yourself? And I wanted to talk about each film. There's for me, how do I say? It's to talk about the subject. This one is about the changing yourself to look like someone else and forgetting yourself. And I was talking about Asians, that when I see the documentaries about people want to look like more European and to get bigger eyes or bigger nose to look more like the European beauty standards, I find it very sad, because Asians are beautiful the way they are. They don't need to look like someone else. You don't need to have bigger eyes to be beautiful. You're just beautiful the way you are. And in the film, it's the idea of the scarf with the face on it that we see. It's the same face that on the first film. I don't know if you noticed this with the makeup art, with the UV makeup. The idea is she's fighting to have this as if the society is trying to put the face on her face. But she's fighting this, and at the end, she won, and she threw the face, and she was happy the way she is, because it's. I was talking about beauty. It's very sad to see people changing themselves to be like others. It's just be the way you are, and that's it. You don't need to be like someone else. And that's why I chose an Asian woman. But it could be also, and it could be also, like, for example, in Conflict, the one with the images, the archive images of feminist strikes or gay strikes. This was one more about cultural appropriation, and how what is the limit of cultural appropriation, and how do you say, like, for example, when you see a white man with dreadlocks, is it a cultural appropriation? And why, if I want to do this, is it I don't have hair, unfortunately I cannot do it, but if I had hair, if I want to do it, is it considered cultural appropriation? It's what's the limit of this? How do we say that you can't do this because this is my culture, you can't touch it? And sometimes it is. You have to fight for your culture, because otherwise it's going to be lost. But that's why it's a bit controversial idea.
I understand, but in that film, so she tried to make her eyes very big with very thick lines. So it is opposite.
Yeah, exactly. It's the idea as if she has things that she's on her face, and the society is putting a new face, and she's like fighting for this to not have this face on her face, and she's like always struggling. That's why it's like coming back and forth. And what I understood, identity in Japanese is identity. That's what I understood, and that's why it's written identity. It's not written like identity with I at the beginning. It's because I found it funny that Japanese used identity, the word, and it sounds English. So it's the fact of saying identity in Japanese, it sounds English. So it was funny to combine both cultures in the same movie.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you. Any more questions?
So we will maybe have some occasion to find you around and ask you plenty of questions. So
feel free.
I think we wish you plenty of new adventures and
Thank you so
creative
much.
adventures, and that you fill the world with deep and beautiful images and sounds.
Thank you so much for your invitation here. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone.
Okay.